What's up guys, welcome back to another video. Of course, my name is Gareth from PodCameras, and today we're going to dive into Lightroom. We're going to talk about sunset photography, we're going to edit a sunset photo together, we're going to dive into color grading, cropping, all kinds of fun stuff. It's Tutorial Tuesday. Welcome back to Tutorial Tuesday, where each and every Tuesday we bring you a brand new, fresh photography tutorial. This week, of course it's no different. We're diving into Lightroom. We're going to do sunset photography. We're going to edit a sunset photo together, dive into color grading, cropping, all kinds of stuff, highlights, shadows, how we can get the best out of this photo. Let's just dive into it. Let's get going and let's talk about what we're doing here. So we've got this photo here. This is taken on the Fujifilm 18mm f1.4. There's a link down in the description for all the stuff used for these photos and this video as well if you want to check that out. But I've been very lucky recently that there's been a lot of great sunsets, and this one was particularly nice because, as you can see, the sun, amazing as always, does a great job. But then we've got these storm clouds kind of brewing, and actually it rained shortly after this, and it was really spectacular. We've got a little boat over here on the left, and we've got this photographer on the right with a tripod. Maybe he's taking a long exposure. Maybe it looks great. I hope it does. But we're going to talk about how we're going to edit this photo, and there's a lot that we can do with this. So first things first, let's actually go in and do some global adjustments. Let's do some contrast, highlights, shadows, all that kind of fun stuff. So we're going to come in here. I want to bring the contrast up a little bit. I want to bring the highlights down, just to bring that sun down. I don't like to bring the sun down too far, and I'll tell you why. Because I think it should be a bit blown out, especially in a situation like this. I really think it should. You know, if we bring the highlights all the way down, that just looks ridiculous. We're talking about the sun. You know what I mean? So I think it really should be a little bit blown out. You can double click that to reset. I'm just going to bring this down to about -26. I think that looks pretty good. Let's bring the shadows up a little bit just to kind of bring up some of the detail here. I'm actually going to bring the overall exposure up a little bit and then drop the highlights even a little bit further. I want to bring the texture and the clarity up a bit just to kind of bring out some kind of detail there. And I'm just going to increase the vibrance a little bit as well. I like to do that rather than saturation. I think it looks a bit more natural. And we can always go in and do the hue, saturation, and luminance sliders separately for each color. So I think we'll do that. Now I think this looks already pretty good. We can use the / key to see the before and after. This was where we started and this is where we've got to. So we've just kind of brightened that up a little bit. So nothing too drastic. Next, what we're going to do, I think, is maybe just come into this curves adjustment. I might just bring the shadows up a little bit. Kind of almost like a reverse S-curve to what you might use normally to add a bit of contrast. We've almost taken some contrast away here, so we might come back to that later, but I think we're going to leave it like that for now. And then let's come down to the hue and saturation. Now, with the hue selected, I'm going to just bring the oranges down a little bit and the yellows, not too much. I don't want to affect the sunlight, kind of the look of it too much, but I do want to bring it down towards the orange. Green, I'm just going to pop towards the green a little bit. And then I like to bring the blues just a touch towards the aqua. I think that always looks quite good. Saturation, well, I want to bring the blues up a little bit. I want to bring the blue out in this top left and in this cloud as well in a moment. I'll bring aqua up as well. And I think we're going to leave orange and yellow, maybe bring them up just a touch. And then luminance, I want to bring the blue down a little bit as well because it really just richens it up in that top left. Now, before we go any further, I want to come up here to the top. I want to add a couple of filters in because even though, you know, there's a few different things we want to do with the colors, there's a few things I know I want to do with this sky before we go any further. We're going to essentially add in some color from the different sides using the graduated filter. And then we're going to use a radial filter in the sun to add in some color around the sun. So let's do that now. Let's bring this graduated filter in from the left. Let's just double click effect there to reset it. Let's bring that in from the left. And I'm going to bring down the color temperature towards the blue. I'm going to do another one from the right. And again, color temperature towards the blue. Because I really want to accentuate these blues over in the corners. Then let's click the radial filter here. Double click effect just to reset all of these sliders. I'm going to make a nice kind of biggish circle around the sun there. Feather it up a bit so that it doesn't have such a harsh edge to the circle. Let's click invert as well. That means it's going to affect everything inside the circle. And then I'm going to bring the color temperature up to the kind of the warmer tones. And I'm going to click done. I already think that looks fantastic. Let's see how much of a difference that just doing that has made. Let's press /. I mean, look at that now. Look at the color difference we've made just by adjusting the white balance locally in different parts of the image. I'm a big fan of obviously adjusting the white balance overall to get a certain look, but certainly never overlook the possibilities of adjusting the white balance locally. That's a big thing. That's made a huge difference. Now let's come back down to the color grading here, where we can add colors to the midtones, the shadows, the highlights. Let's bring the midtones over towards the kind of orange a little bit. I think that looks pretty good. Let's put some blue in the shadows, some kind of tealy blue. And then a little bit of orange maybe into the highlights as well. I think that looks pretty cool. Now we're starting to get into, you know, a little bit, like I say, color grading rather than just kind of manipulating the colors that are there. Now we're adding color in. So if I turn just the color grading off, you can see that's made, and then back on, it's made quite a big difference. We can come back down here. Let's enable profile corrections. I don't think that's going to do anything because it was a brand new lens. So I don't think there's any actual profile corrections in there, but I don't think it needs it either. I don't think we need to make any adjustments. I think it's all pretty level. Let's just add a little bit of a vignette there as well, just to really, you know, make the sunrise, or sunset rather, I'm not going out for sunrise, the sunset, you know, really pop in the middle with this darkness coming around it. And then down at the calibration, let's just bring the red primary over to orange and blue primary over to teal a bit. So we've got a little bit of a teal and orange feel there. Let's look at before and after. We can press Y to actually see a side-by-side of the before on the left, the after on the right. Look how much of a massive difference we've made to the colors in this image. I think that looks so good. I really, really like that. Now let's play around a little bit with a few other bits. So let's go up and let's affect the global white balance. Let's push it towards the warmer tones. That's going to really accentuate the sunrise feel of it. I think that looks so good. Or we can double click and come back. I like it like that. You know what? I like the contrast of the colors in the corners in the middle. Finally, what I want to do is just come into the cropping, and I want to adjust this a little bit. There's a few different things I would do here. There's a few different crops we can get from this one photo. And something that I think is really important is never be afraid to crop your photo in, you know, all kinds of different ways to reframe it. I like this as it is. Let's bring this down a little bit, and I think that would look pretty nice. You know, using the rule of thirds, maybe something like that. I think that would look pretty good. We've got the sun pretty much in the middle. We've got our photographer friend here. Of course, I don't actually know him at all, but we've got our photographer friend here taking a photo nicely on that intersection. But we could also come in, I like a 16:9 crop. I'm a big fan of that. And there's enough kind of negative space up here that I think that works very well. Of course, we could go for an Instagram crop. We could go for something like 4:5. And we could actually center up the photographer and have the sunrise, or the sunset. I don't know why I keep saying sunrise. Maybe subconsciously I feel like I should go out in the morning. But we can have our photographer friend here in the middle. The sun kind of on this line on the left here for the rule of thirds. And that looks really good as well. We don't have quite so much contrast with the colors that we had before. So I think my favorite crop is going to be 16:9 here. Doing something like this. I think that's the crop I would probably go for. I think that looks really nice. Now we could accentuate the colors even further. We could take away this tone curve. I think that probably looks better actually, a little bit more contrast. We could even bring the vibrance up a little bit to really, really get those colors out. And there we have it, a really nicely color graded, I think at least. Let me know what you think down in the comments, but a nicely color graded image with this sunset. We've really gone for it with the color grading rather than kind of relying on the natural tones. We've accentuated everything. If I show you the before and after side by side like that, I think it looks really nice. You might think it looks a little bit overly colorful. That's fine. We can always reduce the saturation. We could go in and edit everything because we've used these layers as well, these graduated filters and radial filters. We can go in, we can turn those off. We can, you know, adjust them after the fact, but I think that looks really good. I think that's a nice sunset image to go for. And there's a lot we were able to do with it. We could have had different crops as well. There's loads of options for how we proceed. But let me know what you think down in the comments. Is this the kind of thing you go for? Is it too colorful for you? Is it too manipulated? Let me know. Maybe the color grading, the bit where we add the bit to the midtones, the shadows, the highlight, maybe that's the bit where it's too far. Let me know down in the comments what you would do as well. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, there's a full list of all the kit used for these photos and this video and everything here down in the description, so you can check that out for yourself. Of course, I'd love it if you liked and subscribed. I'd love it, but only if you enjoyed it. I'd love it if you gave it a thumbs up. It takes a second, but it helps me out a massive amount. I will see you in the next video, and as always, thanks for watching.